You see it there, fire in the night. Welcome back to CBS News 24/7, where we continue to follow breaking news out of the Middle East. So Israel claims it's a matter of survival. They launched a wave of airstrikes on Iran. The target, what they say, Iran's nuclear facility sites. Top military leaders and nuclear scientists also targeted by Israel. So their prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, defending these attacks, claiming Iran has been weaponizing nuclear materials and posing a very real threat to the survival of Israel. In fact, Israel remained under a state of emergency in the wake of Iran's retaliation. We can tell you more than 100 drones launched towards Israel. Israeli military leaders say most of those drones were intercepted. So in Iran, state media says the strikes hit several cities. We are looking at a very important map right there. You should as well. The strikes hit the capital of Tehran, and the UN's nuclear watchdog confirms that Iran's main uranium enrichment facility also took a hit. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations saying just moments ago, Israel stopped Iran in its tracks. Listen.
This was a calculated and necessary action based on clear intelligence and carried out in response to an escalating existential threat. For years, the Iranian regime has funded and directed attacks against Israel through its terrorist proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Iran has fueled instability across the region.
That's standing down an Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. We're joined now by Andrew Boyd. He's a CBS News contributor and former chief of operations for the CIA's counterterrorism mission. Good to have you and your expertise with us on this very important day. Your reaction to what the ambassador had to say there.
Good morning, Reed. Yeah, I mean, the enrichment that was going on, again, the IAEA, aside from the Israeli government, declared that it was exceeding anything that had been previously agreed to. So yes, the development of those sorts of strategic weapons was an existential threat, may still be an existential threat to the state of Israel. Whether or not the Iranians were planning an actual attack against Israel, I don't know that. I do not have access to that intelligence. But those strategic weapons that Iran was probably intending to build were an existential threat to Israel.
All right, and so we've been talking about the sites. We've been using the term uranium enrichment sites, but also targeted were some mines that were attached to these alleged operations. Of course, we know that Iranian officials were killed. We know some scientists were killed. What are we knowing about those human targets?
So that's an extraordinary part, and frankly, it's reflective of Israel's attacks against Hezbollah, where Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, was killed in late September of 2024. Israel has extraordinary intelligence capabilities. Obviously, they killed the commander Hussein Salami, the commander of the IRGC, the Special Operations Forces of Iran. They also allegedly killed the chief of staff of all of the Iranian military and between 6 or 7 scientists associated with the atomic program. That's an extraordinary thing because that is the core group of folks who were working on these weapon systems. And from a leadership perspective, a military leadership perspective, the core group of advisors and decision makers working for the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei.
That shows intelligence, that shows coordination, that shows planning. Did that intelligence get shared with the United States? If not, should it have been shared with the United States? We, of course, know that the U.S. has said very clearly they were not involved. However, we know they do share intelligence.
I mean, we have a comprehensive counterterrorism intelligence sharing relationship with the Israelis, and we have for a very long time, since, frankly, before 9/11 on our own counterterrorism fight. You know, whether or not the Israelis would have shared that intelligence, actionable intelligence on Iran with the United States intelligence community, I don't know. And frankly, would it be of value to us when the Trump administration has said very clearly that we do not intend and do not want to go to war with Iran? Would we be prepared to go to war with Iran if the Iranian regime attacked U.S. forces or U.S. personnel or U.S. civilians in the region or elsewhere? Yes, we would be prepared. But the intelligence that the Israelis used was relevant to their action that they took overnight.
Earlier in the broadcast, one of our journalists mentioned that, of course, there are other underground sites that can only be blown apart or accessed if Israel has access and help from the United States to actually go deeper into the ground. The United States, again, wants to stay out of this. They hope to get a deal done with Iran and take that path. But what would need to happen for the U.S. to be further drawn into this, to give those specific type of weapons to go deeper?
Well, I think that the Trump administration wants to avoid that, wants to find a diplomatic solution and an end state that does not result in the United States going to war with Iran. But if the Iranian regime made the mistake of attacking U.S. military personnel, U.S. ships in the Persian Gulf, that will result in catastrophic military action against the Iranian regime that frankly could lead to the collapse of the current regime. That being said, to your point about buried facilities, yes, I do not think the Israelis have airdropped kind of bunker buster kind of weapons that the United States has to get them to those facilities. But what the Israelis do have is extraordinary special operations capabilities, both in the Israeli Defense Force and in Mossad. And I think the Israeli government just showed some images of special operations, human beings operating inside of Iran overnight. So I'm confident that the Israelis can take the action that they need to defend themselves without involving some of the unique munitions that the United States military has.
CBS News contributor Andrew Boyd, your expertise so appreciated here on CBS News 24/7. I thank you for the conversation. It is an intense time right now in the Middle East and also in the Situation Room in the White House right now.